Welcome to the Instinctive Influencers podcast, a show where influence becomes one of your tools for success. Now, here are your hosts, Brian Weber and Ed Haley.
Hi, I'm Brian.
And I am Ed.
And this is the Instinctive Influencers podcast. Ed, we have been on a hiatus for multiple reasons.
Life. Just life.
Yeah, it is. And you know what I'm thankful for? You probably hadn't seen this because you don't get on there, and I do. I look at the Podbean, so that's who we distribute our everything out to. And on there, so it tells you the numbers and downloads and all this stuff. But I want to say it was like 4 or 5 days ago. Like we had a massive uptick. Like one day, I think it was over 200 and something downloads in just that one day. It was kind of weird. I was like, man, that's crazy. But it's good that, they were, and I looked through, so you can see all the episodes that they're listening to. And it was everything from the very beginning all the way through. And it was just full of all. So somebody's out there checking us out. And it's pretty cool. So we've been on a hiatus. You said is life. You came to the States and you went back to Germany.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to see you because we were totally on opposite ends of the U.S., which is, was one of those things. But you got to enjoy seeing your family and being around them. And you even told me some funny stories. I don't know if we want to talk about those right now on here at a wedding and stuff. But how are things? That's what I want to know. How are things, Mike?
Yeah. No, it was good to come back. It's a little weird. I went to I went and seen the football team ruin Cam Newton's return to Carolina. And it was just weird, man, because, here everybody's in these masks and, I went to a football stadium and it was like few and far in between. I was like, all right, whatever, cool. Just another barbecue nachos, which is something I missed from the States. And oh, by the way, it was delicious.
Yep.
But we got the chance, and it just was weird. It worked out too. The game we went to was also the salute to service game. So the Army Golden Knight parachute demonstration team was there.
Oh yeah.
So I got to see that. Then it was Cam Newton's first game back, and we spent some time out at the lake house, and it was a good time. My kids came in, and got to spend some time with not kids. They kept getting on me because I kept calling them the kids, and they're like, So, I mean, they're a little old for kids, I guess. The baby is 20, almost 24, but...
Well, you should just start referring to as my adults came in,
Yeah, my adults came in for a visit, and, it was a good time. Lots of food, lots of cooking.
I'm happy you get to go to a game and stuff, too, that's... and you even saw... it was Washington you got to watch, right?
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like, I'm there. It's the salute to service. It's my home team.
Yeah.
Team name to be announced, 2222. Yeah, 2222. Yeah. February 2nd. So
I have a
which is also a Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's really weird. I have so I've seen a lot of different things out there. They actually have dwindled the names down to certain ones. One of them being the Admirals, maybe. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So it just all worked. And Charlotte is a very beautiful city. I love Charlotte. So it was warm. It was nice to shed the jackets and sweatshirts and we run around in t-shirts.
Yeah. No, I totally get you, man. Yeah. We, just give you an idea. We drove across Texas, and I don't recommend anyone to ever do that in their life. We went from the furthest west you can get all the way across, man. And it was just like, yeah, put them this way. My kids, every once in a while, it wasn't, are we there yet? It was, are we out of Texas yet? That was the comment.
I remember those days. I remember when we were at Hood, which is in central Texas. It is literally like to the Arkansas border, man. It's like 6 hours and some change. Like,
yes,
and you're just still in Texas. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get out there in the middle of nowhere and there's nothing but oil fields, and you're just like, okay. Thank goodness. I'll tell you this. My wife's car, it has this little, it has this where it helps you steer.
The lane assist.
Yeah, so it does that. And so really you just gotta keep your hand on the wheel or it screams at you, but you just put it in cruise and, across, that's what I did. I had it like 80 miles an hour and we just hauling because
What's the
that's the
speed
speed
limit?
limit. That's the speed limit. That I was like, oh, wow, 80? I haven't seen 80 in a long time. So, but yeah, I mean, it was nice to go home though for a little bit. I got a head cold while I was there though, because I think my body's not used to the humidity or the moisture.
Yeah.
So it was, I'm breathing in, pollens and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's terrible. I
Yeah.
mean, but you probably still had a great time. So it's always good to go home, visit.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a great time.
Recharge.
We brought home a dog. We were not going to get another dog until we get close to my retirement, which, obviously I can retire in 6 years. But then this guy shows up, man. He shows up at my in-laws' house the day we get there, and he just doesn't leave. And we take him to the vet. He's not chipped. So we're like, hey, we'll bring him home. And funny story is his name.
Yeah,
So
I want to hear this.
Jimmy the Hound. Jimmy the Hound is it's trademarked now. He's on Instagram. He has his own Instagram page. So we're outside, and we still hadn't had claim to this dog yet. It was just a stray, and he started taking off towards a UPS truck, which it seems like he doesn't like UPS trucks, FedEx trucks, or buses. I can tell you that right now. He barks at all of them. So he takes off after it, and my father-in-law's like, hey, you, dog, Jimmy, come here. Like, it's just a random name. He just throws at it. And so once we decided we're going to keep him, like, we're just going to name him Jimmy. Your dad already named him. And funny thing is I'm pretty sure. So my wife talks to her parents probably every day. It's funny thing is now that her dad asks about Jimmy before he even asks about me. So there's that.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't see the problem.
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost certain if his wife would let him keep that dog, he would have kept the dog.
He'd have kept Jimmy.
Yes, I have a strong feeling. So, yeah, but so we've been off the air, or we haven't released anything for a while, and it's been kind of nice because we kind of like we regather, because sometimes you got to do that. And we've got a lot of different things we've talked about, and we want to look at a lot of lessons learned from past.
Yeah.
How many times have we tried to record the George Washington crossing the Delaware one, and both times it messes up. Like, it's
more times than he crossed the Delaware. That's for sure.
Yeah. So we've tried to record. We're going to get that one recorded because I think that's a good one. Like, to know what really took place there and to understand those lessons learned, especially leadership lessons learned. But we're going to hit upon, we're going to hit some Revolutionary War stuff. We're going to hit some Civil War stuff, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korean War, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I mean, we're going to come all the way through. We're going to hit different. And I really wanted to hit upon this, Ed, because of, one, you've got your bachelor's in military history, and now you're pursuing a master's degree in military history.
I know.
And I said to myself, let's take Ed's history degrees, my leadership degrees, and let's just kind of put them together. I mean, let's speak upon the things that we know, and just kind of inform people, and then it allows us to look at different perspectives, thoughts?
No, I think it's an interesting idea because you're looking at these leadership lessons, but you're looking through a lens of culture now, right? Like, you're looking at them a little bit differently, and there's dangers to that, of course.
Yeah.
But there's also value added in that, because then it helps you take that lesson learned and make it make sense. Excuse me. Current in the current, modern time. So that should be interesting. It should be fun.
Yeah. But before we go there, though, there was something that it really, those, if you can see it, those of you watching, you can see a question behind me on the whiteboard here. This is something that we've been learning here at the Academy, and it's like every class you hear about something called Mission Command, and to understand what this is, I think allowing you and I to get on here and we kind of discuss we just go through the kind of the framework of it. And I know there are listeners that we have dealt with that are young, it's okay, that they don't know it. But I'm just trying. I want to get to a point where we're able to kind of pass on this knowledge that's going to help these juniors down the road. You know what I mean? I wanted to hit this one because I know it's an important thing. And so this particular topic, they started writing about it years ago. And then it's just kind of transformed over the years. And then we've come out with the Army just came out with the newest edition of ADP 6 not 6 yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. ADP 6-0, here I am, of Mission Command. I looked down and I'm like, yeah, there it is. Well, what happened was I looked down and I saw FM 100-5 that we were talking about earlier. And I'm like, no, that's not it. It's up here. I got my notes right there,
FM 100-5 is important to me. I just want you to know
It is. But they just published this 2019. So this is kind of new if you want to look at it it's published. But it's not new. It's an old concept that they've just kind of refined over the time, Ed. So before we get into the actual meat of this, is there anything you wanted to kind of throw out there about it?
Yeah, I think what's interesting, Brian, is looking through the material. And I started looking through it and I said, oh man, I haven't learned about Mission Command since Master Leader course a few years ago. But then I start looking at it and I'm like, oh, well, that just makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. So when you say this, I mean, it's been a thing forever. Maybe we just added some titles to it, but the actual act, the actions, the principles, they've always been part of military leadership. And easily I can see where they would cross over into the civilian sector of working, which is funny. So I told you at the beginning, one of the things I've started doing as I prepare for my retirement is now I'm starting to really look at these military terms, these doctrinal terms, and things that we do and say, okay, well, how can I word that to make sense to, somebody who's not in the military? Because, don't necessarily want to say civilian, but, in that sector. But I think that's going to be good because now with us and the podcast, I think it's going to help me learn some of those things. That's going to help me prep for my transition. So yeah, looking forward to it. Let's see what we got.
I think you're getting a chance to take these resources and kind of exploit them. And we're going to talk about exploiting a little bit in here. So real quick, I just want to get a quick note about this. We're going to cover what is Mission Command. However, so everyone understands, we're not speaking for the Army. This is not something that's secret or anything. This is actually, you can, if you want to look this up, you can look this up. You can Google what is Mission Command. Yeah, you can look up ADP 6-0 so you can kind of understand where we're coming from. What I did was I basically took a lot of the meat, like the basic meat of it, and I put it together so we could kind of discuss certain areas. However, there is a great logic map that can be found in the very front of that very manual of 6-0 that will help people kind of understand the overall framework of it. And it makes sense once you understand it. And one of the things that got me is we've got soldiers that go to boards, they go to and different things like that, and they don't know what this is because there's no emphasis on it. No one talks about it to them, and that's what I wanted to be. I want to be able to give some people a leg up on this. So I hope it does. But right off the bat, so our reference here we talked about is ADP 6-0 Mission Command. All right, right when you open up that book, Ed, there's a quote that comes out of FM 100-5 operations, but this was a manual from 1941, and it makes perfect sense once I read it. The situations that confront a commander in war are infinite. I can't even read today. Here we go. The situations that confront a commander in war are of infinite variety. In spite of the most careful planning and anticipation, unexpected obstacles, frictions, and mistakes are common occurrences in battle. A commander must school himself to regard these events as commonplace and not permit them to frustrate him in the accomplishment of his mission. So what we're saying is there's problems. you're going to run into problems in war. You're going to run into problems in business, right? Because sometimes business can have the fog of war mentality, and that's what
Oh
I want to
yeah.
kind of look at it. That what they're talking about is about that fog of war, that unknown that's going to creep into what is known. And we'll hit
Yeah.
upon the unknown and the known a little bit later on. What do you think? What are you thinking?
I mean, when I look at it, Brian, I'm really thinking this quote from FM 100-5 is, I mean, Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. It's really, if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's there. That's it. Everybody, the plans are great, but plans when
Mm-hmm.
something happens, when Murphy shows up, and Murphy always shows up, then it's how that commander responds to that plan, and that's what I
Yeah.
think this quote's really focusing on. So,
Oh, it
I
is.
mean, it's good. It's excellent.
And what we're going to get to is basically this whole framework is how we create a little bit of order of the chaos. It's kind of like hey, if we can stay in these limits, we'll be able to control a little bit. You can't control the chaos. That's impossible, right? However, if you can have some parameters that kind of help steer you along the way, and
Absolutely.
to understand this though, so if we were to look at the framework of what the Army does, we're just speaking for and our side of it, because there's the whole joint piece of it, right? So
Mhm.
that would be like all our sister services, but we basically conduct what's called unified land operations, right? And that's simultaneously executing offense, defense, stability, and then what's called DISHKA, or basically defense support of civilian authorities across multiple domains. So what are domains? Domains being the things like land, air, space, even or even on water
Cyber.
sometimes, cyber, like all these different things. So what you're saying is like you've got all these different things going on at different planes, different domains, and we have to be able to kind of not constrain it, but have some type of control, but not have control, right? Because you got to give control to others. And basically, our job is to try to shape the operational environment, and we're going to hit upon operational environment also, to first to prevent conflict, prevail in large-scale combat operations, and then consolidate gains as part of unified action. All right. So our job is, we don't want to have to go to war unless we need to, and if we do, then our job is to dominate. And then once we dominate it, then we're going to consolidate all that we've done to make sure that we're not taking over. All right. With that, to understand what Mission Command is basically, it's how we execute that unified land operations. It's the framework that allows us to execute it. It's how we get into. So basically, it's the Army's approach to command and control. Right. So we're going to talk about command and control, but at the same time, people have to realize. We talk about it before. We hear Jocko say about decentralized command, and we're going to hit upon some of that too to understand how Mission Command works into, or decentralized command works into Mission Command. But it's basically that empowers subordinate decision making and decentralized execution appropriate to the situations. Mission Command supports the Army's operational concept of unified land operations, and it emphasizes on seizing, retaining, and exploiting the initiative. All right. So this is basically how do we have command and control? How do we control the battlefield by allowing junior subordinates to basically run their areas to complete the overall mission, right?
To empower them, yeah.
Exactly. We're empowering them. So what does that look like in the civilian sector though?
Oh.
To me, what does that look like? That looks like you have a CEO, and you probably have what's called the C-suite, and you have all these different figureheads, but then you have managers. You'll have managers of different sorts, supervisors, stuff like that across the company. That CEO can't be telling every single manager what they need to do every day.
Right.
That's that decentralized piece where they're saying, okay, well, this is what we want. This is what I'd like to see us to go. Go ahead and make it happen.
State. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the end state. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So,
And sharing that vision, right? Like we talked about vision,
mhm,
vision before. So they share that vision. Here's my vision of what the end state is.
mhm,
So here we are now. Here's my end state. I need you to figure out what goes between these two pillars and get
absolutely.
us
Yeah.
there. Okay.
And what we're doing is though we're going to go into that because there is something that kind of correlates to that vision within the principles of Mission Command. And we're going to hit upon so Mission Command first is basically decentralized execution through delegation of decision making authority to subordinates. So I'm let's say I'm in charge of X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z are my subordinates. All I'm saying is I need this done. They make it happen by making the appropriate decisions within the parameters of what I needed done. The areas there are multiple areas of this mission command, and what you're going to
Okay.
see is you have principles, then you have elements of command and control, and then you have what's called the warfighter functions. Associating the final one, the warfighter functions, to the civilian sector, we'll see where that goes. I think I have a general concept that would work. However, I really want us to really focus more on the principles and then the elements because I think those are going to associate better. And it also gives listeners an understanding of what we're getting into. So successful mission command is enabled through these principles. And basically the principles are you have competence, mutual trust, shared understanding, commander's intent, mission orders, discipline initiative, and then risk acceptance. Let's start right off the bat with that competence. You want to hit upon what it says about competence, brother?
Yeah. So what it says here is commanders and subordinates achieve the level of competence and perform assigned tasks to standard through training, education, assignment experience, and professional development. So think of this as being tactically and technically aware and able to perform needed tasks asked of you. So I think really key here, Brian, it tells you exactly how that competence is, how it's grown, how that competence comes to be. It's just so training. So you think about it, right? Like even for your in the civilian sector, you're talking, certifications, things like that. There's
Mm-hmm.
training and education, um, and then the job that you have. Don't be just happy in this job. What about applying for that next job that's more challenging? And that helps you to grow and become more competent as an individual. So for us as leaders, it's easy to have an easy job in the military and say, this is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get out of our comfort zone. That's where we have these additional duties, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy for me to just worry about my specific area, but you know what? I also want to be the equal opportunity leader. I want to be in charge of the program to ensure fair treatment. That's an additional thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it builds my competence level by assuming those difficult tasks, especially the ones other people don't want. And then and that all that together just culminates in your professional development of who you are. That's how
Yeah.
you get that next promotion. That's how when you have two candidates who are seemingly on paper, the same qualifications. Well, what separates them? Well, what separates them is how they've developed themselves professionally
Yeah.
as a leader in the military or a leader in your workplace.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't have said any better. It's like if I looked at you, Ed, and I said, "Hey, man, I need you to go to weld. I need you to go weld up a new frame for this building." You're gonna look at me and be like, "I don't weld." Well, that's because that's not you don't have competence in that yet. Right? You haven't been trained. You don't understand it.
Yeah.
But if I said instead, "Hey, I need materials ordered and shipped to this location," well, that's your competence. You understand being a loggy. You
Mm-hmm.
know what it means. So you understand. So I'm working within those parameters that you've been trained on, right? So
Yeah.
let's move on then. We'll move on to the next one, which is mutual trust. And this one
Ooh.
is key because some people don't realize, this is hard to build if there's been some destructive patterns in the past. So
Yes.
mutual trust is shared confidence between commanders, subordinates, and partners that they can be relied on and are competent. See, we brought competent in it in performing their assigned tasks. At the lowest tactical levels, the ability to trust subordinate formations to execute their collective tasks and battle drills is essential. So what it's saying is I trust Ed can accomplish his mission of delivering goods as a loggy. I have that mutual trust. So I'm saying, hey man, I've got this order out there. I need you to fulfill it. I trust that he can do it because I've decided to, because I know he can do it. So I think some of the part is, knowing Ed is knowing what somebody's competent in, right? To understand it. And not to step on toes or anything like that. Like some people, they may get their feelings hurt, things like that, because they're like, oh, well, I could have done it. Well, I got you could have done it, but I want to go to the professional that I know that needs to get this done now, right? But at the same time, I said, if there's been some damage in the past, well, that could have been through micromanagement. That could have been through the what they call counterproductive leadership. So I don't know if many people know this, but in our field of work, they've changed toxic leadership to counterproductive leadership. Now that's the new term. I still see them as the same, but if you've had somebody who's a counterproductive leader, which we know of people like that, they can diminish that mutual trust, and then no one wants to do anything. It's just like, I'm just going to get by day to day, right? And that's not fun. So building mutual trust within the organization, that's critical, but you want to know what people are competent in to additionally, basically kind of evolve that mutual trust. All right. What do we got next, man?
All right. Well, so this next one, Brian, is shared understanding. The understanding collectively of the operational environment and operations purpose, problems, and approaches to solving problems. This is accomplished through collaboration and visualization. Shared understanding both supports and derives from trust, which you just talked about, Brian.
It's all unfolding.
All unfolded. It's just like a little trifold, just folding it out. So really right here, we've talked about, I don't know how many times we've talked about the importance of collaboration. We talked about when you're counseling a subordinate, them being part of that discussion gets, the buy-in, right?
Yeah.
And that's that shared understanding. Because if I sit down with you, Brian, I say, okay, let's talk. And we talk about what your plan is for the next whatever, to get to the next rank, which you can't do anymore. But we're going to talk about this thing, right? But we're going to talk about it together and we're going to collaborate on it. So then that gives you understand what I see as your goals and I understand what you see as your goals. That's the shared understanding. And it's just me sharing. So I'm going to share with you, here's my vision for you moving forward. And you're going to say, well, this is what I see the path moving forward. And what we're going to do is try to collaborate those two visions together to get the shared understanding. It's all it is. I mean, for what I do right now with the international logistics, I have to do this with our allied partners all the time. I say, hey, here's how I see the support for the operation. And they say, well, this is what we have available. And this is what we recommend. Because obviously I can't just go into the country and say, I'm doing it my way because I'm the big bad United States. What I say is, okay, I understand that, but I need these things too. And they say, well, we can give you that. Then we develop as partners a shared understanding moving forward for logistical support in whatever X country is. So shared understanding as a principle of mission command.
What I like about it is, so operational environment. Let's go ahead and clear the waters up there real quick. That's basically the area in which you work. That's all, but that's all the different little entities coming in. So let's say you're somebody who's in sales, right? You're in sales of mattresses, right? You work at a mattress store. So what is your operational environment? Well, not only is it the store itself, it's the customers coming in looking at things. It's also it's your, I wouldn't say enemy, but your rivals out there that are, you got another mattress store down the road. You've got the online people who are selling direct to home type thing. So it's your operational environment. It's like what you're working within, the constraints that are enemies, friendlies, and then just bystanders. And you got to kind of see it that way. So if we understand that, we can understand all the other elements. But if you don't understand who your enemy is, you don't know who your friendly is, you don't even know yourself enough to be able to perform, then you're not going to be able to perform within a shared understanding. And that's operations purpose, problems, and approaches to solving problems. Those are critical. So I have to be able to see what problems are. I have to try to forecast problems that could happen, right? We're not going to see all of them, but we're going to see some. And then once we see some, we got to start building answers to those for the just in case, right? It could be, I have somebody coming in the door. I'm a mattress salesman. I have somebody coming in the door and they've talked to me. They would like to buy X mattress, but they also seen this other one online that they feel like they can get a better deal. Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of weird. There's a store here in town. My friends went to it. They bought a purple mattress from the store in town. It was. I always thought I didn't know they were doing that.
I didn't know they were doing that. It's not bootleg, is it?
No, it's the real deal. They get the same. Actually, it's the same one I have. Man, it's pretty nice. I'm not trying to advertise for purple mattress or anything, but it's a good mattress. Yeah.
Oh man.
I haven't done the drop the eggs on them yet.
There's the rabbit hole. I miss the rabbit holes.
It happens. Yeah. But if I can understand that could be a problem, right? I am dealing with a competitor that could possibly outdo me by giving some type of discount. I've got to work through that, right? I got to create some type of shared understanding across my staff, those types of things. All right, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the next one. It's called Commander's Intent. However, it's what you basically mentioned earlier. It's a vision, right? It's visualizing through to an end state. And here's what 6-0 tells us about Commander's Intent. Commander's Intent is a clear and concise expression of the purpose of the operation, so why we're doing it, and the desired military end state, what we want it to turn into. It provides a focus to the staff and helps subordinate and supporting commanders act to achieve the commander's desired results, otherwise known as his vision, without further orders, even when the operation does not unfold as planned. Like you said earlier, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and then things are going to change, right? And that's exactly what it is. So we're looking at Commander's Intent is his vision for basically the purpose. I have to know why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then where they want me to go. All right. Commander's Intent can be pretty easy, or it can be convoluted at the same time. It could be like a really broad statement. But what we want to do is we want to make sure we don't want to over complicate the Commander's Intent. We want to we want to sell as many mattresses as possible to every customer that comes through the door. All right. And that might be the simple Commander's Intent of whatever. But we want to make sure that we don't overcomplicate it by adding all kinds of little details into it. I just need to know why I'm doing it, and then what you need me to do. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
No, I'm saying, I think that, I was thinking as you were reading, in the first few words, you have one of the most important parts of the Commander's Intent, that clear and concise.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, many businesses and organizations have mission statements, or they have a vision statement. Those things are kind of their Commander's Intent, right?
Yes.
It's letting the employees know, this is what we're here to do. This is what we're here, to accomplish. And so, in the episode that I have an idea for later, we'll talk more about those type of things. But
yeah,
definitely, I think Commander's Intent, you just have to have the understanding, and it's got to be something understood at the lowest level, right?
Yes.
From the new hire, whoever the newest person you hired is, whether it's the dishwasher, the janitor, or Schmugatelli on the cash register, they should all understand what the intent, what our mission is as an organization, so that they can push to achieve that result, that end state for that we have for our organization.
Yeah. And so you're going to get that initial guidance through the Commander's Intent. However, the very next part that you're going to go into, that kind of gives us a little bit more details, right? That's where the details come in. That's where
the deets.
Yeah, that's where the intel, that's where the information comes in. That's where
Yeah.
the it's kind of putting a little more pinpoint on what needs to be done by you in your organization or your organization, but it still doesn't give you the exact checklist, right? And you want to
Right.
cover that very next one?
Yep. So the next one we got, Brian, is mission orders, and those are directives that emphasize to subordinates the results to be attained, not how they're to achieve them. Mission orders enable subordinates to understand the situation, their
Mm-hmm.
commander's mission and intent, and their own taskings. And so these are important because this is the guidance now. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
intent. Here is how we're gonna how we would like to get there, but then there's still that wiggle room for you to do your
Yep.
whether your thing is to use the person, ask the person, at say a restaurant, ask them their first name and use their first name the whole time. Maybe the organization doesn't say that is the thing, but our goal is to create a family friendly environment, and you decide to do that. Well,
Yeah.
then now it does become the norm because other people see you doing it. Maybe if you're a waiter or waitress, your tips are up because you're special, not special, but extra friendly. So those are the type of things that could help you to achieve the overall intent of being a family friendly organization.
Oh yeah, and we're about to jump into some elements here that really hit upon. So the mission orders, it's giving you kind of like, hey, this is what I need done from you,
Yeah.
and now you just take the ball and you run with it. You can decide in whatever direction you want to go. Speaking of taking the ball and run with it, this was the time I wanted to say, hey, congratulations to your sister who beat me in the championship for fantasy football.
I didn't hear you. What was that?
Yeah, I lost again. This
Oh,
Yeah, 2 years ago it happened against you. This year it happened against your sister.
always a bridesmaid, never the bride.
That's how I felt. I just want to take a quick interlude here about about that, and also though I did want to say how I beat you twice in a row. So it's a 2-1 this
What
year,
trophy was that for?
just to beat you.
Oh, no trophy. Okay.
It's
I just want to make sure.
it's
There's
called
no championship.
it's called the Beat Ed Trophy.
But I have beat you for a championship.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, just checking.
All right. So hey, we're gonna move on. We're obviously gonna move on. So the mission orders give us kind of like that, whatever. But what the next two areas that you and I are gonna cover, Ed, to me, those are the critical points about that decentralized command that we've talked about, right? That decentralized command we've heard Jocko talk about. It's that whole, all right, hey, here you go. Here's the ball. You do what you need to with it, all right, to make sure we get it to the end zone. The first one is called discipline initiative. This right here, this one, it can wreck an organization or it can make them one of the best. Okay, I would say that if we look back in time, Ed, if we want to look at some famous organizations in the Army, and I'm gonna, you're probably gonna know where I'm going with this, that use some discipline initiative to really overcome the enemy. I would say Easy Company. You can look at the things that they done in there. Some of the things that were instrumental that created, they had some discipline initiative and they wreaked havoc as they went across Europe, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so I think there's a lot of organizations, especially in that particular conflict, that
Yeah.
fell into that. But yeah, I mean, when you talk about it, you're talking about like PFC's privates first class stepping up and taking charge of stuff and
Mm-hmm.
and making things happen. We were watching. Actually, it's funny. We just watched 1941 movie Sergeant York with Gary Cooper. It's listed as one of the 10 greatest war movies, and I had never seen it, so we watched it. And literally, his Medal of Honor is because they're pinned down, the machine gun fire is coming, and everybody above him has been killed. He is at the time a corporal, and now he's the highest ranking non-commissioned officer on the ground. And he starts low crawling, and he starts taking out Germans. And next thing you know, he's in a bunker next to them, shooting out of trenches in World War One, and he's in a corner where they can't really reach him, but he's just pot shotting them. He's a good old boy from Tennessee. right?
Yeah.
Nashville area, Cumberland.
Mhm.
And he's just bang, bang. And so in his citation, right, he took this discipline initiative. He executed. He wasn't reckless. He didn't just charge at them. He took
No.
his time. He thought things through, and he ends up killing 20 and capturing 132 Germans alone. Like he has it's 8 dudes total, but
Mhm.
he ends up being the one to like start bringing them out of the trenches. So he took that discipline initiative and earns a Medal of Honor. That's Sergeant Alvin York.
Insane.
It was a good
Insane.
movie too.
Well, if you think about it, when I do read this definition of this part of it, you probably can relate the words that I'm going to read to his actions and what he did. All right, so discipline initiative refers to the duty individual subordinates have to exercise initiative within the constraints of the commander's intent to achieve the desired end state. So basically, this is saying, hey, you're allowed to conduct it between parameter A and parameter B. Stay within those confines and just get to the end. Yeah, I just need you to get to the end. You figure out how to get there. You call the plays as you need to. And that's why I always like to refer this stuff back to football because that's the way I see it. Like you have the field of play, and if you run out of bounds, well, then you're out of bounds, and you can't, obviously you can't keep going on with the play. So you got to keep pressing
sideline
forward.
to sideline.
Yep. Call your offensive and defensive plays. You need some stability in there, so you bring in additional players. So hey, let's look here. So subordinates exercise initiative when the commanders to the constraints of the commander's intent to achieve the desired end state. Simply put, discipline initiative is when subordinates have the discipline to follow their orders and adhere to the plan until they realize their orders and the plan are no longer suitable for the situation in which they find themselves. So let's go back to Sergeant York.
Yeah.
He was on track with the mission orders.
Right.
But then you said right there, everyone within the chain of command, that he was the highest ranking guy. And then he made the conscious decision, I can do this if I do this way. He didn't charge straight at him. He kind of snuck around, pop shots. He was probably doing certain things. But he took that initiative and then he made the mission happen. Earned a Medal of Honor. And I don't think he did it to earn a Medal of Honor. He did it because he was a man in war who wanted to,
yes, yeah,
not be on the other end of a rifle or a bullet, right? I mean, pretty much.
Absolutely. He didn't do it for the glory of it. Matter of fact, funny fact, he didn't want he was alive when the movie's made. He doesn't want the movie made originally because he feels like he's selling the uniform. He originally he was like, no, you can't do that. But he does eventually come to it and say, yeah, all right, we'll do the movie. But he was on the set. That's why historically accurate in the list of films, it's way up there because he was on the set the entire time, pretty much like making sure it was accurate. Yeah, it's a pretty good story.
I'm going to have to watch. I'm going to have to get it.
It's a good movie. It's Gary Cooper. Yeah. It's not bad. It's a little strange. It doesn't show the, I mean, for you being from Tennessee, the English language in this movie is not very good, the way they portray people from Tennessee. But I know for a fact after living there, that's not accurate at all. Maybe in the 40s, I don't know. Well, based off of what I know now, it's not.
All right. So, and technically, I'm not from Tennessee. My wife is. Kind of. I've lived most of my life in Tennessee. I'm from Maine. I'm from Maine. So I'm in New England, up there, up north.
I've never seen you eat chowder yet.
You never seen I don't eat chowder. I like lobster stew. All right. We don't do chowder.
Peter Griffin from Maine.
No, he's from Connecticut. No, we get in the car. We go to the bar. Have a beer. Okay. Anyway, let's keep on this roll with Sergeant York. We talked about his discipline initiative, but he probably needed to use this next principle.
100%. That's why I brought him up.
In that. Okay, go ahead, man.
So the next one is risk acceptance. And I got a couple of examples, but in general terms, risk is the exposure of someone or something value to danger, harm, or loss, because risk is part of every operation that cannot be avoided. Commanders analyze risk in collaboration with subordinates to help determine what level of risk is this and how to mitigate it. But what they're also doing is the juice worth the squeeze? So with Sergeant York, what happens is So they've circled around these. They're behind the bunkers. The bunkers are still pinning down the rest of the unit.
Yep.
So if he doesn't make this move, the rest of the unit could all be killed. So now they don't depict this in the movie, and I don't think it's in the book at all that he thought this. But if you really stop and think about it, okay, at some point he had to be like, well, I have to do this or everybody's going to die. And so he makes that decision that my life is worth the risk at this juncture to save the lives of others. Another book that I had to read recently for school is called Crusade by Rick Atkinson, and it is about Desert Storm, Desert Shield. And because of his experiences in Vietnam, General Schwarzkopf was very, very against risk of soldiers' lives.
Yeah.
He was adamant about not losing soldiers' lives willy-nilly because of that. And that's happened throughout history. People who served in World War I, during World War II, they were a little more like, let's be cautious. So but you got to evaluate it, right? Like, is this risk worth what we're going to get as the outcome? And so that's very important. And within your organization, same thing. You got to take a risk on something. You got to take a chance. What's the outcome we're looking for? And if that outcome is what we achieve, and assuming this risk gets us there, is it worth it? Is it value added? Is it something that we can accept that, yeah, you took that risk, but we got to the end state.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head with that, man. That's understanding risk.
I gotta get a hammer.
Yeah, we should. And you just start pounding like a board with a no, I mean, like, I think about that, Ed, right? I think about me now versus me as a private. I had no idea of understanding risk, and I took a lot of risk on a lot of things. There was a reason why I put an LNTV in a pond in Korea. I mean, because I didn't understand risk, and I was stupid. But I think it's when we see a soldier or even somebody working in whatever company, civilian company out there, we see a person. They're going down that pathway and they're accepting too much risk. It's turning that into a teachable moment, right? And it's not destroying somebody and trying to ruin their career, ruin their life because they're about to do them. Maybe they didn't understand this. They didn't see it. They didn't press back to see the whole concept of things. They didn't understand like their parameters in the discipline initiative, the mission orders, and the commander's intent. Right? They didn't understand. So we have to be able to help people understand that risk. Great point, man. So we're going to do is we're going to move on now, right? We've talked about so far unified land operations. We didn't really go deep into it, but that's basically the Army's mission within the joint of war, right?
Yep.
We talked about mission command is basically how the Army operates with, to achieve our unified land operations mission. And then we looked at these principles. These principles are really critical. So you can use these in almost any type of organization, right? But now what we have to do is, so a lot of people think we got rid of what was called command and control. And we did for a little bit out of doctrine, but we were still doing it. So they put it back in 2019. So in 2019, when they started doing all these updates, they brought it back in and said, hey, we need to have command and control in there.
I didn't know it was gone.
Because we've always operated that way.
Yeah.
We always have. Like, it's not like it was something that's like, we're not going to do that anymore. We're just going to do this other thing. No, they're one and the same in a sense, right? And so what you have to do is you have to have command and control. Basically, command and control are the fundamentals to all operations and is the exercise of authority and direction by a properly designated commander over assigned and attached forces in the accomplishment of a mission. There are elements of command and control, all right? There are 4 elements of command, and then there are 4 elements of control. So we have these 2 different areas. You have command and you have control. So to give you kind of an idea, so you have what's called the art of war and then the science of war. So command really works under that part of it. That is going to be under and I hope I don't get this wrong, because if somebody in the class listens, they're going to be like, oh, he's totally wrong. So you want to have the science of war, and then you want to have the art of war, right? And these two different things, you want more control when you can, and then if you can't control it, then you want to try to have some command to it. So let's talk about these elements. You have the elements under command. Right. So real quick, those elements are authority, responsibility, decision-making, and leadership. Right. We'll start off right off the bat with the element of authority. Inherent in command is the authority that a military commander lawfully exercises over subordinates, including the authority to assign tasks and the responsibility of their successful completion. All right. So basically, it's saying, I'm in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Here is what I need from you. It's all it is. It's just I have the authority to. Now, I don't have the authority to tell you to do something that's illegal, immoral, and unethical. That is not what that means. It just means that I can give you these mission orders. It's my job as the person in charge to give you this mission. Now I need you to complete it. That's all that is. It's nothing more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when people understand authority within an organization, which most organizations people do, right? You have a boss, your boss has a boss, and your boss's boss has a boss, right? And it's just kind of like that trickle effect. So that's understanding that. Let's move on to responsibility, though, Ed.
All right. So responsibility. Commanders are legally and ethically responsible for their decisions and for the actions, accomplishments, and failures of their subordinates. Commanders may delegate authority, but delegation does not absolve commanders of their responsibility. We hear that all the time in the military.
Yeah.
You can delegate authority, you cannot delegate responsibility. No. So this is where I was thinking immediately when we went to command and control, Brian, starting with your authority. General Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander of Forces of the Allied Expeditionary Force for D-Day. At the end of the day, if D-Day fails, it's all fingers back to Eisenhower.
Oh, yeah.
He has all these generals and field marshals under him from the British, from the Canadians, right?
Mm-hmm.
From 1ID, 1st Infantry Division. So he's still ultimately responsible, but he has these subordinate commanders that he says, hey, we're going to invade France. We're going into Normandy. Boom, formulate the plan. Here, they get the armadas going and all this other stuff. And then here's your follow-on task, for the British, for Field Marshal Montgomery. You're going to take Caen. That's a hub, logistics hub. You have to take that. But he didn't say, now this is how you're going to take it. You're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. Right? So he delegated that. But at the end of the day, the failure of it still goes back to Eisenhower. So, so responsibility couples with authority. You can delegate your authority. You cannot delegate your responsibility.
And some of the things I like to think about with responsibility, Ed, is ownership of it all, right? Mm-hmm. How often we talked about where somebody owns the bad, like the leader will often want to take ownership of what bad happened, but when something good happens, they credit it to those who accomplished the task.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because most of the time, as a leader, I'm not the one accomplishing that task. What in the world are you drinking?
Strawberry lemonade.
Ooh, that looked. I know. I was like, man, that looks delicious.
I keep getting chunks of strawberry. That's why I keep chewing.
I saw what you were doing.
If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see it.
Yeah. It looks delicious. Anyway, and that's where I get it. Like, you want to have ownership of the entire thing, but don't do it where you also take credit for the good. Just take you're going to get credit for the good. I'm telling you, it's guaranteed, because as soon as something good happens, Ed, often you say, "Hey, it was not me; it was such and such." That person who is in charge of you or is your boss, they're often going to say, "Well, you know what? Leadership reflects."
Yeah.
There's your credit right there. Oh, you're saying I was a good leader? Thank you very much. Right? and that's the thing. It's like sometimes people are so concerned about getting credit, and then here's the other part. They won't take responsibility for the bad. They don't take, it wasn't me, it was such and such. If this and this were involved, it's not my fault. Yeah, deflection, right? I can't stand that, man.
Deflect.
Yeah, take some ownership of it. All right.
I didn't even hear you scoot your soapbox out right there, Brian.
It was sliding on the soap actually.
Oh,
Like there's still soap in it, and yeah. All right, so let's move on. We're going to move on to the
yes,
next one,
sir.
the next element, which is decision making.
Mm.
Which that can be kind of critical. Decision making refers to selecting a course of action as the one most favorable. Not you see how it didn't say it's the one that fits perfect. It's the most
Yeah,
favorable.
fits
It's just
perfect.
gonna kind of work. We hope it works, right? To accomplish the mission and includes making adjustments. See, that's why it's most favorable because you can make adjustments to plans during the execution of an operation. Decision making includes knowing whether to decide or not, when, then when and what to decide, and finally understanding the consequences. So
Oh
making
yeah.
a good decision at the right moment, and then understanding there are consequences to that. We used to hear it all the time, the third and fourth order effects of my decision. How is
Yeah.
that going to affect my decision? We talked earlier when we were discussing some of your plans for your final thesis for your master's program, and
Yeah.
you talk about it be the logistics, right? What were the third and fourth order effects of the logisticians not getting fuel for those tanks out on the battlefield?
Yeah.
You know, if a tank doesn't have fuel, it doesn't move. That's so the decision making to get to that end state, it's finding the means to move fuel in large quantities to
Yeah.
fill a whole division or corps, whatever it is that they need to fuel, right? So decision making is critical. Oh, I got something right in my eye.
Right in there.
Right in my eye. Anyway, but you get where I'm going with decision making. It's about making it's what's most favorable, not perfect, because you can't be perfect. You
No.
want to take, but you want to take elements of information. You're not going to know about everything on it, but what you do is you take what you do know, and then you hypothesize the things that could happen also off of what you do know, and then you make a educated guess, an educated decision on how to
Yeah.
accomplish. So,
So the one thing I wanted to add to this, Brian, is we've talked many times about walk around leadership and being a leader of presence, but in decision making, so this goes back again to my guy General George. Uh, this is why guys like Patton and Rommel, and that's why they wanted to be in the front line and MacArthur, because I can't make a decision from 20 miles behind the front lines. But if I see it and I can
mhm.
witness it and I'm on the spot, I can communicate effectively to my commanders, then I can make a decision to
Yes.
adjust. And that's when we talk in here about being able to make adjustments. That is the purpose of being a frontline leader. So in your
Yeah.
organization, it's not military. That's also the reason of being a walk around type of leader, because
Hmm.
when those things happen, when those questions arise, it allows you to be at the front, to have a vision, and to make a good informed decision. If you're in your office and you never leave your office, and your team is out there, you're not gonna effectively be able to make decisions
Hmm.
from your office. Like, you may get lucky here and there, but there's things that are going to happen that you're just not going to be able to decide on or not know. And by the
Yeah.
time somebody comes to your office, gets you, it might be too late.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
so it's funny you brought that up. You can't make the decision in office. One of my core room instructors, he often quotes Patton. He loves Patton as much as you do, I think, sometimes. But he often says, no good decision was made from the armchair, the swiveling
None.
armchair. Yeah. So
None.
that, yeah. Hey, so obviously we hit authority, responsibility, and decision making, but that all those elements crucially need this next one that you're going to talk about.
Yes, they all are part of leadership, which refers to influencing people by providing purpose, direction, and motivation while operating to accomplish the mission, improve the organization. That's one of Brian's favorite things.
Mm,
I, I will
it
always
is.
associate leaving the organization better than you found it with you. And that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, because you should, right? That is leadership. When we're talking about command and control, and we're talking about command as part of command and control,
Yes.
you know, as a task force commander, as a whatever, you want to leave your organization better than you found it. I
Hmm.
want to be jealous of how successful my organization is after I leave, because I want to have a role in that success. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I want to look back and
absolutely.
be like, wow, my warehouse, my supply support activity, my warehouse won the outstanding supply and award
Hmm.
after I left. Well, I mean, I helped set that base, and hopefully that is what helped them build and to get to that level. So I want that as a leader, when I lead the
Yeah.
organization. So I think very important to remember that, and still accomplishing my mission, and so leadership, all encompassing of these things in command.
Yeah. And so that particular one that you read about leadership, that is the Army's definition
It
of
is.
leadership. So, and
Always has been.
it has, and you know what I've always liked about it is that it's basically a two-part thing.
Mhm.
It's because it's the first part is about influencing, and then the second part is about accomplishing the mission, right? But that influencing part, influencing people, but providing. So you're providing this. You're not just saying, "Hey, just get the mission done." You're
Yeah.
actually providing some purpose. You're actually providing direction. Hey, so why are we doing this? Direction being, okay, we're going that way, and then you're motivating them, right? You're
Yep.
motivating. You're not demotivating.
No.
You're not discriminating. All these different things that are counterproductive. You're not doing those things. How are we achieving that mission, right? And then the second part being accomplish that mission to to accomplish the mission and improve the
Improve the
organization. So
organization.
you have
Yeah.
two roles there, right? It's nothing tough. I've always it's funny, you can look at definitions of leadership, whether it be in civilian, military, whatever, and I've looked at multiple ones through my degree plans. I've always fallen back to the Army's definition because it's so simple yet convoluted at times and complex, right? You can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to move on to the elements. So we just hit the elements of command under command and control. Now we're going to hit the elements of
Let's control
control.
it.
How do we control this? All right, so first is direction, and then it goes direct. So it goes direction, feedback, information, and then communication. All right, so direction. Commanders provide direction and communicate information, usually in plans and orders that provide subordinate forces their tasks and instruct them how to cooperate within a broader concept of operations. So I'm giving you direction within this larger frame.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm giving you direction on how to do your little task. I'm just saying, hey, here's the bigger frame of things. This is where we need to go with it. How can I provide direction? Through a commander's intent. So let's back it up. You're going to get commander's intent. You're going to get mission orders, right? You're going to be allowed to operate with discipline, initiative, and risk acceptance. So I'm just giving you that direction. Now I need you to accomplish the mission. It's that simple.
Yeah. Okay. It is simple.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do, Brian, is I'm going to discuss with you feedback. Commanders
Which is
receive
great.
feedback from subordinates and supporting forces that allow commanders to update their visualization and plans. This feedback creates a reciprocal flow of information that leads to a shared understanding among all participants. Shared understanding, I
Came up
believe,
again.
wasn't it a principle somewhere or something?
Yeah, that's
I
weird,
believe.
huh?
Yeah, it's like
Huh.
the third principle of
Hmm.
mission command. Um, so feedback. We've also talked at length about feedback on our show and the importance of it.
It's
And I
free.
love
That's
here
what I
that
heard.
commanders receive feedback from subordinates and supporting
Oh.
forces, not peers, not seniors. And they may get feedback from them as well, but that's not the focus always, because when you start moving echelons above the boots on the ground guy or gal, right? You start losing a little bit of that
Mm-hmm.
touch,
Yep.
where a subordinate is at the ground level. They're at the impact. They understand a little bit better, and then you get that feedback, and it allows. And so, as with anything, the feedback allows the commander to make the necessary adjustments to improve the organization, improve their mission, improve their
Yeah.
overall performance, whatever it is, improve sales in an organization. These are many ways that, in the elements of control, feedback is important.
Yes. Yeah. And so I would definitely hit up on. Let me give a few people out there if they ever decide to come to this organization I'm at now to learn feedback. So feedback is critical. You're going to get feedback all the time. You're going to get feedback from instructors. You're going to get feedback from your peers. You probably even get feedback like me. I get some from my wife on things. However, look at it at a different point of view. If you go on to an organization to become a sergeant major, right? So I want you to think about, like, if you're a junior and you're listening to this show, I want you to think about the future. You're going to think about those 2 ranks above where you're at, or 2 ranks in advance of where you are. However, part of your job is to be what you just said, among the group, the battlefield circulation, getting that feedback. Because I'm going to tell you right now, a commander and a sergeant major are not going to always be in the same place at the same time. If they are, they're wasting time. They are wasting their time, because then that sergeant major can take that feedback that he or she has received from the organization and then present that. Hey, this is what I'm seeing, sir or ma'am. This is what I was talking with X, Y, and Z about. They're projecting this, and this. So that commander is now, or let's say CEO, whoever it is, they're now receiving information, and wait, it's starting to look the same. Okay, so we need to go this direction. It helps them make new decisions, new intent, things like that.
Yeah. So, you talked about your examples for feedback, made me think. I remember being a young private and wondering, why is the first sergeant always by the chow line in the field? When you
So
go out to the field, and I'm like,
they
he's
don't
just
eat
there
too
like
much.
nitpicking a uniform, but he's not, because what he was doing, or she would be doing, is they're having conversations with you while you're in the chow line, and they're finding out the command climate or the climate of the organization. They're finding out what's going well. Oh, I'm really tired. Well, when's the last time you slept? They ask these following questions, So they're looking into the health and welfare. There's so many layers to what they were doing. And
Yeah.
all we thought was, they're making sure you had your face makeup on, your camo.
Yeah.
And it was so much bigger and broader than what we believed as young privates. So when you were saying that, it just clicked in my head like, son of a gun, that's what he was doing.
Oh yeah, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it is so weird. Like, now that you look back, you're like, oh, I got you. Okay, I see what you did.
Yeah.
Way to
All
go.
right.
Way to
Big
go,
picture.
fam. Hey, so what is feedback? Oh, feedback is information. And the next element is called information. Central to providing direction and receiving feedback is information. The amount of information that is available makes managing information and turning it into effective decisions and actions critical to success during operations. So we receive information that allows us to make new assumptions, new plans. You may go into a course of action, and then you realize this course of action isn't going to take us all the way to the end. So you now have to adjust due to new information, receiving that new information.
Yeah.
So what is part of receiving new information is constant updates, right? Constantly updates. Is it me as someone who's in charge of a group of people constantly checking in on them? It could be. Is it them constantly checking me? But what it is not is, it's not micromanagement. What it is, hey, I need to know what's going on. All right. Not because I want to make you do it a certain way or make you do this. It's about me understanding, so I know, do we have to shift directions in our to reach our accomplishment that we want to, or are we still good? We still on track, and that's what's important about that. But to be able to receive information, Ed, you have to be able to do what next?
Communication.
Oh,
Communication is more than mere transmission of information. It's an activity that allows commanders, subordinates, and unified action partners to create shared understanding that supports action. It is a means to exercise control over forces. Communication links information to decisions and decisions to actions. Communication among the parts of a command enable their coordinated action. All right, yeah, communication stops double work. Brian's working on, this. I'm working on the exact same thing, but through communication, we would realize this and we can
yeah,
prevent those duplicated efforts, wasting time, and I could go focus on something else. I mean, we can't say enough about the importance of communication. Because and it has to be at all levels. It says again, this is another one that we've had before, shared understanding, right? We talked about that earlier, but it enables that shared understanding of what is the mission, what's going on. And when you get into like a joint thing, that's even more important because now you have some other barriers involved in the communication that you got to figure out. But yes, shared understanding, once it's developed, super effective and super dangerous for the bad guys.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And communication, I don't know how many times we've talked about communication. We've had shows up on it, just directly communication. It's knowing how to receive information in multiple ways. We look at it right now. Even if you're in a civilian organization, I can face-to-face talk to you. I can phone call you. I can send you a text message. I can send you an email. I can do a smoke signal if I knew how to do that.
MS Teams.
There's so many ways to communicate. I think so, Ed. I really believe going through these past 2 years of a pandemic type situation where the face-to-face communication doesn't work as much because of the restriction. So we had to find different formats, and sometimes, and I've seen sometimes that communication is a little convoluted, right? We don't know what somebody means because we can't read their face or whatever, right? And so like, oh, I think they mean this. So now we got to ask supporting questions to make sure we're getting the right information. So that's something critical, man. It's always changing, always evolving. So what we did was we've covered like the massive, bigger pieces of what Mission Command is. And I would tell you, if anybody's listening, they want to know more, go check the reference. I talked about it in the beginning. If you want to understand this stuff. However, the last part, this is the warfighting functions. I'm gonna briefly skim over these because I think these, if I went into detail of these, we'd have another hour and a half show. Okay, because there's so much to them. So finally, Mission Command is executed through the 5 warfighting functions. A warfighting function is a group of tasks and systems united by a common purpose that commanders use to accomplish missions and training objectives. Warfighting functions are the physical means that tactical commanders use to execute operations and accomplish missions assigned to higher level commanders. The purpose of warfighting functions is to provide an intellectual organization for common critical capabilities available to commanders and staffs at all echelons. All right, so there are the 5. These 5s are, you have movements and maneuver, you have intelligence, fires, sustainment, and the protection. So if those of you out there, if you want to understand it in a sense, basically these are the 5 areas that there are multiple like branches of areas within the military. However, these 5 areas, everything falls under one of these 5. And sometimes some of these things can fall under more than one. Right? Yeah. So let's think movements and maneuvers. That's your boots on the ground. That's your firsthand contact with the enemy. That if you're in a civilian organization, those are the individuals getting the stuff done on the ground. They are literally pounding the pavement. They are out there making things happen. They are making the contacts with all the other lower echelon people to create business. All right. That's what that is. That's our infantry. And then the other type of combat arms in a sense, right? Then you have intelligence. So intelligence being, that's our information receiving, right? That's what that is. But that's not just receiving it. That's also seeking it out. That's doing your due diligence to research the information to become more intelligent on it so you can make good decisions. So those are individuals who are seeking out the information. If you're in a company, that could be somebody who's studying your basically your rival. That could be somebody who's looking at the marketplace in X, Y, and Z to see how they can compete against these other organizations. That's what that is. That's collecting data to allow for good decision making and then passing it out to all the other warfighting functions. Then you have fires. So fires is basically indirect, right? That's not just in the army. That's not just the artillery. Fires could be multiple things. It's indirect fire. It's basically, it's not that direct contact that we talked about with movement maneuver. This is the more like, all right, let's say I'm doing advertisements for my company to get more sales in X, Y, and Z. But I don't know the exact market right now. So I need to put out feelers to find my market areas, right? That's like doing that whole, you're just doing a spread offense on advertising. And then you start receiving from intelligence and from information from movement maneuver. Oh, this is where we're at, right? That's basically indirect fires to earn back what you need, right? But it is the things like your artillery. It is like for instance, if I'm calling in for somebody to take out a larger area, that's what that is. Then we go with sustainment. This is you all day long, Ed. It's sustainment. Yeah. You want to tell us what sustainment means?
I mean, sustainment is basically the logistics to support an operation. It can be anything from, we talked about earlier, fuel for tanks, but it could also be the tank itself, providing that tank. Like it could be moving it,
fixing it.
For repairing it, or repairing that aircraft and doing maintenance for 6 weeks on one aircraft. It can also be so for us in the military, we have what's called Transcom. That's who moves equipment from the United States to whatever theater of operation we're going to be in. They're part of that logistics thing. How's that going to happen? What's going to happen at the port? What do we need to support that movement at the port? In your organization, if you're listening to this at work, look down. If you got a pen in your hand, if you got a computer in front of you, that's probably got some kind of logistics. You probably are responsible for it somewhere along the line. You're probably signed for it. However that process works, if they provided it to you from work, the printer and the printer, or the printer paper and the printer came through a supply chain. Supply chain management is all part of that kind of sustainment.
Yep. It's how do we keep this going, right? Like there's the front line, there's the indirect, there's the receiving information, but how do we keep it going? Like we've got to keep it going. And then the final one is protection. And protection is like, so how do I protect what I have? How do I take care of what I have? How do I not allow the enemy to take away from what I have? I got to protect it. If you want to see it as, we had some really cool stuff that protected people when you're on forward observation bases downrange. You had these different type of weaponry that shoot down incoming artillery type thing. Well, what about on the civilian sector? What does that look like? Well, let's protect the protections is, keeping people, how about this, legally and ethically, morally correct. That could be your lawyers for your organization, your corporate lawyers that are going to protect that organization from violating something that could hurt the company, and then ultimately people lose jobs. Right? That's what that is, your protection, right? And you have to look at it that way. If you don't protect your organization, somebody else is looking to take them out or to take it over. So you have to protect.
It could be your virus protection on your computer. I mean, cybersecurity, very much a huge thing, especially nowadays. Cybersecurity, poor cybersecurity and protection of your network. I mean, it could cripple an organization. So, you're looking at that. If you're working in a store or restaurant, you're talking about loss prevention. You're talking about catching that guy or girl who's taking food out and taking it home to feed, their friends and those things. I mean, I remember working at McDonald's as a kid. Everybody probably not everybody. A lot of people got fired from McDonald's for giving a free burger to their friends, but that's still the person who's responsible for stopping that. That's protection. The what do they call them in the stores? Like Walmart has them where they're all in civilians and they just walk around and shop all day, but they're there to catch shoplifters. That's part of protection. Yeah, that's all protection in an organization.
Yep, absolutely. So if you're a listener and you're somebody who's in the military, hopefully this helps you out. And if you feel like we didn't get to what you needed to know about, I would just tell you, I would reference you back to that reference I talked about in the very beginning. You look into it. What we want to do is we want to give you the broad brushstroke, so that way at least you have an idea of how everything works, right? Oh yeah, paint the fence or paint the house. Okay, paint the fence. If you're a civilian organization, maybe this could be a way for you to build your operating system. Maybe this is some way to look at how you all are going to go through and create a better organization, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to end out here with I found 4 cool quotes. 2 of them being from Patton himself. They were actually in the same reference. They were an ADP 6 show. So I'll start off with the very first one, and then I'll let Ed read his Patton ones because it's his man. So the first one is by Karl von Clausewitz. It says, "War is the realm of uncertainty. 3/4 of the factors on which action in war is based are wrapped in a fog of greater or lesser uncertainty. The commander must work in a medium which his eyes cannot see, which his best deductive power cannot always fathom, and with which, because of constant changes, he can rarely become familiar." So that's basically telling you, you've got to be comfortable being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
because you're going to be in that realm. I just saw something. Steve Harvey said that. He said, if you want to be successful in life, learn to be uncomfortable, because that's where you need to operate. If you're working in the comfortable area, you're not going to win, because you're not coming out to be able to broaden and expand. You want to hit us now?
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
so that's also a Joe Rogan thing. Joe Rogan in the
Yeah.
sauna, he doesn't listen to music or anything because he doesn't want to be comfortable. He doesn't want to get too comfortable, so he wants to be comfortably uncomfortable to challenge himself. So yeah, it's funny. All right, let's go to my man George.
Yeah.
Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity. General George S. Patton. So he's really just saying, like, hey, this is what I want done. Make it happen. Ready? Go. And then
Commander's
they're going to
intent and
surprise
mission
you.
orders.
Yeah, you're going to be surprised. And this is true, and I've seen it. I've done it. You give them that, and you're like, oh, man, I'm going to have to clean up this after. Again, risk mitigation. What's really the risk? Is it worth it? Is it something that if they do a poor job, I'm going to have a lot of explaining to do? If so, maybe you keep a closer look on it. But
Yeah.
really, if you just let them go, I mean, people are amazing. People are amazing, and they could surprise you with what you get out of them.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. You want? I'm going to give the next one. I'm going to hit that the Marshal of the Soviet Union, Mikhail and Tuchevitsky. That's what I want to say. So avoid taking firm control or a tight rein over the battle. Avoid taking control. So we talked about command and control earlier, right?
Yeah.
That's not complete control. That's just having some type of control, constraints in certain areas. These measures are likely to hold back the offensive during a penetration or pursuit, and thus damage their chances of success. So we're saying, don't constrain it. Allow them to go forward. Obviously, we have to work in the morally, ethically area lawfully. However, allow them to press forward. Just support them with that sustainment we talked about. Support them with that intelligence we talked about. Support them with that the indirect fires, right? Those areas, the protection. But just allow them to push through. And you could see that in business too. If you allow businesses to just kind of push forward, you may become, that organization could be more successful than what you had dreamed of.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Ed, give us that last one by your man, George.
Despite the years of thought and oceans of ink which have been devoted to the elucidation of war, its secrets still remain shrouded in mystery. War is an art, and as such, is not susceptible of explanation by fixed formula.
Yes.
Yet, from the earliest time, there has been an unending effort to subject its complex and emotional structure to dissection, to enunciate rules for its waging, to make tangible its intangibility. I mean, he's just saying it's so complex, and you can't just put it in a box. It's not going to be a cookie cutter solution. And this goes with a lot of things. There's not always a cookie cutter solution. You got to let it go. You got to work outside the realm of your comfort, outside that box you want to put it in, because you're putting in a shoebox, man, but you need like a big screen TV box. You're not working with it. So that's at the most simplest terms. I don't think George Patton had a big screen TV, but This is what he's getting at. Like, and he was that. You couldn't put General Patton in a box. Nobody puts baby in the corner. You couldn't put him in a box. You had to let him go. Problem is, sometimes you let him go and he slaps a soldier, and you got to put him back in his box. But
he just slap him, though, bro. He did it in a hospital.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. Sometimes So basically, we looked at Mission Command. We looked at different things. We looked throughout Mission Command. We picked up the principles. We picked up elements of command, elements of control. We looked at the warfighting functions. If you have a question about one of these things, I'm more than happy to take any questions on it. But Ed, I do have a question for you, friend.
16.3.
No, that's not it.
That's not it? Okay.
No. Okay. If there were people out there who want to connect with us and they wanted to kind of maybe pose a question to us, what could you suggest of them?
I would suggest to them, Brian, that they check us out on various platforms of social media. 101 Influence on Facebook. It's a closed Facebook page, but believe me, they're not hard questions. I even answered them. Answer the questions and you will be admitted, and then be interactive. Get involved. You can also check us out on 101 Influence on the IG, Instagram. You can check us out there. And then you can check us out on YouTube, where you can rate, review, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs up. But you definitely give us a review so that we can use those reviews as a means of feedback to improve the show.
Oh, so we're trying to institute our own mission command in the show.
Why not?
Why not? All right. So you just showed your competence and you did some shared understanding there, and you gave some commander's intent. So some discipline initiative on their part. That's what we're asking for, huh?
Get after it. Get it done.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, I'll tell you, it was good times, Ed. Good to catch up with you again. We'll see where we go with the next one. We've got a few ideas. Not sure exactly what we're going to dial into. Most
crossing the Delaware.
Maybe it's crossing the Delaware, yeah. And we'll go see how that turns out. Other than that, I have nothing else. Do you, Ed?
No, I don't. It's good to be back. It's good to, hopefully everything turns out well. I know on my side it looks pretty good, so we'll see.
I guess we shall see, my friend. With that, Ed, I am Brian.
And I am Ed.
And this has been the Instinctive Influencers podcast. We thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.
I should really wear a helmet in the episode, like a Roman helmet or something.